In this chess video, we will explore fascinating opening maneuvers for black after the initial moves of e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4. We will delve into strategic tricks and tactics that can be employed by black in this specific opening sequence. Black responds with bishop c5. White now has several options at their disposal. They can choose to play c3, exerting pressure on the center, or opt for castling to secure their king's safety. Another popular move is d3, which defends the pawn and opens up a diagonal for the bishop. However, black aims for white to play d3 as it sets the stage for their tricky maneuver. Black initiates the Lucchini Gambit with the surprising move pawn to f5. This move cuts off the bishop and threatens the knight on g5, setting up potential tactical opportunities. White responds with knight g5, preparing for a fried liver type attack. Undeterred, black pushes the pawn, attacking the knight and restricting the options available to white. White plays knight f7 as anticipated, seemingly celebrating their advantageous position with a fork on the queen and rook. But black unveils the sneaky queen h4 move. If white falls into the trap and captures the rook, queen f2 checkmate becomes inevitable. Sensing the danger, white refrains from taking the rook to avoid the checkmate. Castling appears to be the most reasonable defense, but black responds with knight f6, freeing their rook and forcing white to capture it. Black continues to advance their pieces, creating a multitude of deadly attacks around the white king in just 8 moves. Queen h2 poses a checkmate threat, compelling white to defend with h3. However, black's knight becomes a menace, capturing on f2. If white takes the knight, black recaptures with their queen. If white retreats to the corner, black pushes the pawn to further expose the king. White can capture the pawn in 2 ways, but neither option proves successful. The white queen is left helpless, unable to capture black's queen due to the impending queen g1 checkmate. Alternatively, if white captures with the pawn, black counters with d5, simultaneously attacking the white bishop and activating their own bishop. The game showcases a series of devastating mating tactics employed by black, leaving white with no possible means of salvation. The position demonstrates black's overwhelming advantage. Let's explore another intriguing variation. After rook takes on f8, queen takes f8, instead of moving to the corner, let's consider the possibility of the white king going to h2. In response, black plays the stunning move d5. White captures the pawn with their bishop, and now comes the absolutely astonishing move, bishop to g4. This move places the white queen under attack, and unfortunately for white, it cannot leave the first rank, because the threat of queen g1 checkmate looms large. Even if white considers capturing the bishop with their pawn, it leads to yet another crushing checkmate with queen h4. This sequence of moves demonstrates the incredible tactical resources available to black, putting significant pressure on the white position and leaving white with no escape from imminent checkmate. Let's revisit the position once more. Now, you might consider an alternative approach. Instead of capturing the rook, what if white chooses to move their queen? Prepare yourself for this beautiful sequence of moves. First, black plays knight h3 with a double check, regardless of whether the white king moves to h1 or h2. Following this, black delivers another powerful double check with knight f2. The white king has no choice but to move to g1. And then, in a grand finale, black delivers the decisive blow with queen h1, resulting in an absolutely stunning checkmate. On that note, to my absolutely stunning audience, I encourage you to show some love and appreciation by hitting the like button below. Let's return to this position once again. We have a looming checkmate threat, and I've already demonstrated how disastrous it is for white to castle. However, what if white plays g3? Well, fear not, as we have some traps in store as well. First, let's prioritize the safety of our queen by moving it to a secure square. Now that white is out of immediate danger, they will likely capture the rook. But we are ready to execute the same idea once again pushing d5, and bringing out the bishop to attack the queen. If white decides to block the threat, we can simply ignore it and capture the g-pawn. Sacrificing the bishop allows us to push g2, and this unstoppable pawn puts immense pressure on the rook. Even if the rook tries to escape to a different square, we can effortlessly capture it with the bishop. Moreover, if the white king attempts to evade and flee, we have a variety of devastating attacks at our disposal. Whether it's a royal fork or invading white's kingside with queen g2, our pieces are ready to strike from all directions. In essence, the game is essentially over for white. Their position is crumbling, and there's no escape from the impending defeat. In this particular position, there is an alternative approach if white decides not to block the threat, and instead moves their queen away. At this point, you can strategically activate your knight, preparing to launch an attack from multiple directions. A royal fork is in the works, where your knight poses a simultaneous threat to the king and another piece. Another option is to consider invading white's kingside with a move like queen g2. Additionally, both of your bishops are poised to join the assault and contribute to the ultimate downfall of the white king. In summary, the situation looks dire for white, as the impending attack leaves little room for escape. Let's begin by summarizing what we have learned so far. After the Italian opening, we play bishop c5 and then f5, setting the stage for our traps. We have explored 7 match-winning traps where white attempts to attack with their knight. The key ideas to remember are pushing f4, attacking with the queen, getting the knight out, playing d5, and activating the light square bishop. If necessary, we can also bring our other knight into action. Now, let's address a potential scenario. What if after f4, white gives a check with the bishop? In that case, we respond with king f8. The knight is still in danger, as moving it would result in the loss of the bishop. If white decides to exchange, we refrain from capturing the bishop and instead seize their knight. After the bishop retreats, we proceed to dismantle white's kingside, leaving us with a significant advantage according to the engine's evaluation. Moving on, let's consider a more logical response from white, such as defending the knight with queen h5 or h4. If white chooses queen h5, we can push them back and gradually develop all our pieces. If white defends with h4, we continue to attack the knight. After the dust settles, we find ourselves with an extra pawn and a better developed position. The engine evaluates black's advantage at 2.5 points. Now, some of you may wonder what happens if white does not deviate and accepts the gambit. In that case, we prioritize grabbing the center. When the bishop is under attack and moves to b5, pinning our knight, white poses a threat to take the pawn. However, instead of saving the pawn, we focus on castling as soon as possible. Knight e7 is played, white captures, and we perform a short castle. After castling, our knight is unpinned, and white must react. Most likely, they will capture with the knight, and we recapture with the pawn. White needs to save their bishop, so it goes back. At this point, we have a brilliant tactical idea in store. With our pieces developed and the king exposed, we sacrifice our bishop, prompting white to take it, and we seize the pawn. The main objective from here is to quickly mobilize our queen and coordinate our pieces to target the vulnerable white king. Despite being down in material, black holds a significant advantage due to white's lack of development, with the engine evaluating black's position at a commanding 4.5 points. After examining the lethal traps in the Lucchini Gambit, you might wonder if there's a way to play it as white. Let's explore the white perspective from the beginning. We start with the moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4. However, there are alternative move orders to transpose into the Lucchini Gambit. For instance, instead of bishop c5, you can directly play f5, which is known as the Rousseau Gambit. If white takes the pawn, you respond with e4, forcing their knight to move once again. Therefore, instead of capturing the pawn, white often chooses to defend with d3, leading to the same position as the Lucchini Gambit. As white, when faced with this opening, it might seem like black has made a mistake, tempting you to launch an early attack and punish them immediately. However, I believe the best approach for white is to exercise patience. Rather than reacting to black's unconventional moves, white should focus on castling and developing their pieces in a normal manner. As black, you should also follow suit and activate your minor pieces. There comes a point where you want to castle, but the presence of the bishop obstructs your plans. That's when playing knight f5 becomes a viable option. The bishop is left with no squares, and even if white tries to exchange the knight, you have the move c6, eventually winning the bishop. According to Stockfish, the position is currently dead equal. This captivating game showcases the immense power of tactical vision and the ability to seize opportunities when they arise, leading to remarkable victories on the chessboard. Nevertheless, this opening trick is definitely worth trying out in your games. Before we conclude, don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore the other videos displayed on your screen. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and peace.